in this context of ongoing situation in Middle East, how important and impactful the Mecca Joint Defense Agreement is?
Actually, Joint Mecca Defense Agreement is significantly important in the Middle East for a couple of reasons. First of all, it's coming in line with what the US have been trying to do in the last few weeks after the things escalated with Iran. First, on the first level is re-engineering, restructuring kind of the regional kind of system, if you like, creating this architecture. So, and having that said, these three countries, Saudi Arabia, Turkey, and Pakistan, creating this a significant alliance, which will playing a major part in being representing main players in the region. Secondly, it's becoming important because we have seen Israelis since the post 7th of October have been advancing in different places. The military security doctrine has changed. So we have seen them hitting in Syria, in Doha, even advancing in the south of Lebanon, south of Syria. So creating another players, in a sense, another players who can balance this is essential in the region. Third factor is the American, again, Washington perspective. It turned out that it was meant to bring Iran to the table of this regional power, of the regional system, which something we haven't expected at the beginning due to the lack of a strategy from Mr. Trump administration when they attacked Iran, where the Israelis were pushing to escalate more in that sense. But now what we have seen is a sort of rearranging the regional. I don't want to call it balance because it's still in the favor of Israel from the Washington perspective. However, this could balance the formula in a sense.
But Mr. Batal, with what perspective the regional countries are viewing this all-important development?
For instance, I'm talking to you from Amman, for instance. Amman are very wary in a sense of the Israeli policies regarding the West Bank and, of course, before that, Gaza. And they have a sort of a very good relations with Pakistan, Riyadh, and Ankara, of course, or Turkey. However, Jordanian is a main player in the region, but they are not in this settlement in a sense, in that set, because we are talking about the military manufacturing by biggest NATO through Turkey. We are talking about a nuclear power with Pakistan. We are talking of one of the biggest countries spending on a defense budget or party, yes. Saudi Arabia, and also Jordanian will be a small country with very influenced relation with Washington DC, even with a peace accord with Israel, with very strong attached to Palestinian question and Palestinians themselves for different reasons. They will be looking to that region. It's something should happen that bring the region it's at least peaceful, or even it's relatively, especially Jordan. I'm just giving example of Jordan because there are other countries, other players will be looking in from different perspectives. I'll talk about Iraq, Lebanon. All of these countries are in the heart of this. So creating sort of equilibrium, balance in the region, stopping Israelis from their advancement, also taming Iranian wild policy in a sense, which we have seen in the region, could be a solution for the region. However, I need to remember to remind that there is always spoilers who play major role in such arrangements.
But Mr. Batal, how do you see that? How will the world and global powers, especially America, China, Russia, and other countries in Europe and UK, take this development?
They're taking it positively, I would say. But to start with, looking for the United States, this accord, this alliance becoming becoming in line with what Americans think of this region. Although many people haven't seen it, but and that doesn't mean it's good. I'm just analyzing the situation as it is. After post 7th of October, many people, emotionally put their positions out. But I'm talking about analyzing America. This alliance coming in line with Americans thinking of the recalibrating the regional balance, if you like. However, on the other side, you could see China, who've been benefiting from the Ukraine-Russia war, they were benefiting from the Iranian energy export, will be looking at that. Of course, anyone will say we want a stable region. However, they will be looking that we want to benefit economically and from that. So some parties, of course, will be not quite happy in a sense. However, in general, if this alliance bring peace, bring equilibrium to the Middle East, I think people will be happy with it.
But Mr. Vatal, we know all three signatories of the agreement have historically been facing a constant threat and furious design by their adversaries, particularly India and Israel. So how big deterrent would this agreement will be in this context?
Yeah, in that sense, I'm glad. That's why I said before there will be spoilers. I'm talking here mainly, if you look, let's give a context. There was a sort of recent few months, there is a rift between Saudi Arabia and United Arab Emirates. United Arab Emirates already has allied India in a sense in a defense. India is very influenced in the sense of trade, etc. And since the Modi administration came in, the policies toward the Israel-Palestinian conflict has changed, etc. But we can see that Emiratis in a line, they are allying with India. India has changed that. All this ideology of Nehru, Gandhi, or Nehru mainly about the two-state solution, and we've seen there is a kind of getting closer to the Israeli position, as well as the Emiratis as well. So therefore, that doesn't mean there is a rosy situation here. We having the power balance trying Americans to create in a sense. And that doesn't mean all these three parties, let's say in the case of Pakistan, Saudi Arabia, and Turkey, they will have different opinions and different interest in a sense. They will, and the history telling us that it's always all these kind of alliances didn't work in the Middle East for longer terms. On the other side, there will be other parties, as I said, realigning themselves in a sense. But the most important thing, and I think Washington thinks in this way, and again, I'm not saying that's necessarily positive, they are just thinking to recalibrating the regional powers, regional balance, so there no party, no state can dominate the region in a sense, and that creates the mechanisms to carry on the political and situation and economy, of course, in case of Hormuz, to get them to normalize.
But we have seen some sort of hearts from a few voices within Iranian setup. Why Iran is responding in this way when it has categorically been described that this agreement is not intended against any country of the region in particular?
Because Iran, as I said, with the American perspective, that to recalibrate the regional balance, I just repeated that a few times. Iran in a game of negotiations, they want to gain as much as winning points in the negotiations against the Americans in that sense. And the main thing is Iran is returning to the regional power, to the regional formula as a main player, which after there's been sort of a decline, if you like, it's been retreated. Now Iranians are just re-putting themselves in the region. So they want to gain as much as gaining points. And at the same time, such alliance will weaken the position of Iran in the regional table in a sense. Because if you compare the power, the capabilities between all these parties, you will see that the tide is tilting to the side of the new alliance.
Mr. Batal, FM Hakan Fidan has entered inclusion of Egypt in this pact in near future. What is your take of possible expansion of this troika to other nations?
I would say yes, but that will be providing how the balance would go. I think, for instance, Jordan, Syria are very highly potential candidates to join such alliance, both as their own kind of strength that could feed in and so I believe that these countries could join. In that sense, I won't be surprised that Iran forging, although there are problems with the official position of Iraqis, but I would say Iran could go and forge kind of agreement or something like that with Iraq, making it more formalized. So I'm thinking there will be seeing expansion in a sense. However, we will be seeing a kind of a pluralization between all these parties in that regional table, I would call it, because I can't call it equilibrium so far.